Good afternoon, everybody. Today is June 20th, 2018. The time is 1 p.m. Commissioners are back in session to continue with our budget deliberations. We have all three commissioners present. For those of you joining us on the internet for the streaming, we welcome you. Before we get started, I've asked Commissioner Visser to address some correspondence that he had sent to me last night after budget deliberations in making sure that everything is, that there's no concerns about any open business violations or open meeting violations. We felt that the best way to handle this was just to have Commissioner Visser kind of explain what his comments to me were on the email so that everybody knows, again, because it's an open meeting, the budget deliberations are. So I'll turn it over to Commissioner Visser.
Yeah, to get the full context of this, the meeting or the conversations happened after we adjourned yesterday, but they were related to the budget. I met briefly with the sheriff yesterday and expressed the need to consider more cuts from his agency. I believe that 1 out of 39 is a disproportionate cut. And I think there will be lasting financial implications based on the sheriff's pay plan or sheriff's salary thing, whatever that is. And that's the gist of what I talked with him about. With Commissioner Case, to me, I believe it is an important enough consideration that right now I am considering pulling my vote on the 3% addition that I agreed with Commissioner Tibbs earlier. Made it conditional based on foregone taxes. I'm not going to consider those. But again, the perspective of this, I believe that it needs to be addressed. So that's what we covered. Okay.
That's pretty much, in generality, that's what was said in the email. Commissioner Visser had sent that to me. I didn't respond to him because I had some concerns. And then after consulting with legal counsel, I was advised that probably the best way to cure that is just to bring it up in the meeting today as we've done. So hopefully that'll cure that issue.
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Tibbs.
Would it be possible for Commissioner Visser to read that email into the record?
Yeah, I don't mind that. I can even read the one I read to the sheriff last night. I don't have the context of the conversation that I had out in the hallway. It was just, I would say, a random running into each other. Would you agree with that, Sheriff? We didn't plan on meeting, did we? No. Okay. So this was written at 6:43 last night. Sheriff, after reviewing the budget again, I believe it is critical that you reduce the number of nurses from 8 to 4 or even 3. You have only cut one of your 39 new position requests. More should be done. 39 new positions are way above the CPI. They are a percent increase in comparison to other departments, significantly more, and you will be forcing future boards to make tough decisions on freezing and possibly limiting future budgets. 1 in 39 positions cut is the lowest cut on any of the agencies that made cuts, and it only equates to a 2.5% basis. Please make the nurse cut, and more if possible. I believe it is necessary, it is important, and if you do not cut more positions, I may be forced to change my vote on taking the 3% addition. Then the department with the most new position requests will be making even more cuts. This is not what I want. I'm not comfortable, however, with some of the postponing and shifting moves that have been made. I hope you do consider this and change your mind. Thank you. And let's see. Tuesday, that's this one, that was before. If the sheriff does not cut his numbers by at least 4 from 8 and consider cutting the supervisor, I believe I will need to pull my vote on the 3% increase. Cutting only 1 of 39 positions is not acceptable to me. It is too disproportionate. Let's remember, we represent Ada County taxpayers. Rick.
Let's see. The ones you sent to me, I just
Okay.
One, I think, is a duplicate.
Yeah.
One they sent to you last night?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The second one was to me. The first one was to the sheriff.
Yep.
Okay. Now that we've got through that, let's, Kathleen, maybe you can give us an update on where we ended up yesterday, and then we'll start the discussion on what's going on today.
Certainly, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. You ended up with a deficit of $4,058,356. We're looking for 3.5 or lower.
And, you know, having had that kind of end discussion with Phil and Chris, well, I think Phil actually presented the idea that if we cut the 500,000 out of the payroll time management program, instead went to a lease type of program, which is kind of where a lot of these things are headed futuristically, that would take us down to 3.5.
Cutting that 500,000 certainly would. I don't know if that is still something that we're considering offering, or would you like to hear from Phil?
Let's hear from Phil or Chris or whoever.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, as we left off yesterday, I referenced that I would talk to Steve O'Meara, which I did yesterday afternoon, looking at the payroll system. And so what I said, I do believe at a maximum we could cut $500,000 out of the payroll system. It does start to, and I think, Mr. Chairman, you're aware of this piece, but the other two commissioners may not. It really starts to drive which direction we go in terms of what we will contract for. So as I mentioned, there's the three options: in-house, purchasing a system, or having basically paying a fee, a licensing fee where we have it. This will steer us towards needing to do a licensing fee just because of the amount of money we would have available next year, which is probably the most likely result. We were able to get some information from the consultants that we've hired, as well as just talk about it between ourselves. And so I think we can do this, and it can still be a very successful project. It creates a little bit of risk, but there's risk in this no matter what. But recognizing the difficult position we're in, that is certainly an available option, is to reduce that amount by as much as $500,000, recognizing every dollar you reduce creates, it drives it more in that direction. I think one of the things, too, to reference, just based on the conversation that's happened so far, I think as a board, I would suggest before you take that step, although that may resolve it, obviously looking at taxes and revenue. If the revenue changes significantly based on the prior conversation, this option may or may not help.
Yeah, we'll get to that discussion here in a little bit. I just wanted to know if that was still on the table.
Yep, I think that definitely can be on the table.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions for Phil regarding that matter?
Nope.
What about if we go to a lease? That's the alternative. Is that correct, what you're saying, Phil? Or continue a lease?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Visser, it would be software as a service. So basically, we would probably end up with, there would be a lump sum implementation cost, as probably well as one stable lump sum amount that we pay annually, and then a per employee per month basis that we would be paying for the service on the software.
Okay, and do you have an idea of what the upfront lump sum cost would be?
It'll be in the hundreds of thousands, so it could be as much as $500,000, just that upfront piece, and then it's us figuring out what that monthly cost is per employee. I mean, we're over 1,800 employees, so it'll add up pretty quickly. All right, we've been trying to do it. The really big challenge is this is going to take a year for us just to do the procurement piece in terms of working with the consultants to evaluate our needs. We are a large employer, right? So most vendors won't be eligible to participate in this just because of the needs of a large employer. Plus, we have unique circumstances in the sense of varying employees. So obviously, like deputies at the jail work different hours and different times a week versus like the people in the courthouse, as well as you add in things like Percy. There's requirements to be able to do the Percy withdrawals, garnishments, and other things. And so we'll have to work through all of that to see what the options are. It'll also mean probably our cost versus if you just checked what a small business might pay will be higher because we're more demanding in terms of our needs.
Well, that's a good explanation. Thank you for that additional information. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You bet. Okay, well, I guess, Kathleen, anything else where you just need us to start discussing things?
You need to start discussing things. I know one thing that we have not made a decision on is Alaba House. When I was looking back through the decision sheets, there's no decision on that. So at some point, we need to officially make a decision on that. And then also, we never actually recorded your decision on the blended rate for healthcare, which was $312 a position for the county's portion for budgeting. It came up to $604,000 countywide. It's included in the numbers that you've been looking at, but that's what we'll have to do for the blended rate for budgeting purposes. So never actually officially got your answer on that. I do not know.
Thought we did. I thought we answered that.
We have a yes in here, so I'm good with that.
Well, I mean, Cassie, that was Cassie's
Yes,
deal, and I believe she's presented that to the board.
I believe so, probably in another setting.
Might be
Yeah,
at another
I don't believe
meeting.
we've actually,
So we're just not officially in here.
in
this
here,
meeting.
yes, in here, officially for the budget purposes.
Okay, Cassie, come up and give us just a quick, very short explanation regarding the blended rate, if you would, please.
Absolutely. Chairman, Commissioners, we looked at the healthcare premiums and the healthcare trust, what we anticipate the costs will be, and we anticipate a 5% increase that we need into the trust. And so that's where the blended rate increase is coming from, is that 5%.
Okay, you gentlemen recall
I
that?
remember that, yeah.
Okay.
But that is not yet in our budget?
No, I think it's still it's in these numbers, right?
Yes.
Okay.
We just didn't give an official
Give it go.
thumbs up or 1,000. So, yes or no?
Yes.
Jim? Me, yes, so 3. Thanks, Cassie.
Thank you, appreciate that. You ready to look at decision sheets? Or you still want to look at this?
Let's keep it up front because there was a question about the 3%. So
Oh,
we need to know where we're at.
okay.
And again, I mean, we're having discussions until we get to a point number-wise where we're comfortable on adopting a tentative budget, correct? That's what you're looking for as we get to the end of this?
Well, yes. Getting to the point where we can put a tentative budget together for you.
So if we adopt a tentative budget, what that means is we can still consider things, but we cannot go up in the budget. We can only go down. So that's the maximum dollar amount we would spend,
So,
or that it would be.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, you won't actually adopt a tentative until July 31st?
We'll just give you the thumbs up that we're good for
Yes,
there.
and so we can start creating that for you and getting that ready for a presentation to the public. And
Okay. Well, I can tell you where I stand right now, and that's with that 500 coming off, bringing us down to 3.5 of savings use. I'm comfortable where we're at. Jim or Rick?
I'm not comfortable there. I still want to, I still think the new courtroom as well as the upgrades to the courtrooms is an ideal project for Foregone. I suspect that this is going to be the last year that the county has a chance to use any Foregone. And I think it's the right time. I think we'll have to rely on the courts to sell it at the public hearing, but I think it's desperately needed. We're going to get 3 judges. There's no doubt in my mind. I'm sure that the courts are going to make a good case. They're going to get 3 judges, and the state's going to pay for that. But we're going to get stuck with the law clerks, the in-court clerks, the prosecutors, the public defenders, the remodels for judges' chambers, and we're going to need every penny. And I think that, and we won't pay for that with Foregone. But what this will do is give us a little more flexibility to where we can use some money next year because we're going to get those 3 judges before we know it. And I support the sheriff's budget the way that it is with the 8 nurses and the supervisor. For me, that's a matter of public safety, inmate health and safety, as well as officer safety. It's a huge liability issue that has to be addressed better than what it is now. So again, I'm an advocate for using the foregone. I know I'm probably not going to get a lot of support, but I think we're going to need it next year.
How much are you looking at?
Well, what would it be for the courtroom is 1.57 million. If we did all of the courtrooms, and we should, in the upgrades, do it all at once, so that everybody gets the same equipment. Larry, do you remember what that was?
475, I think, for the equipment.
It's right there.
Yeah, okay, roughly looking at $2 million.
Little over 2 million, probably.
Yeah, so roughly $2 million. So that's where I stand.
Okay, Rick?
Given the requirements that we cannot go up, we can only adjust down if needed. I'm okay with where we're at right now also, Chairman. So I second your position.
Take us through yesterday's where we, what all we cut cut. You've got
So here,
those up there, some of them.
took out the supplies for the 2 clerk employees that were cut. $5,000 for the assessor for IAC dues, because that's in your budget. We took out the additional for doing all the courtrooms, $475. Supplies for the position from IT that was cut. You had cut your lobbyist, consultant for banking services, the consultant for the 457 plan. You cut the additional for U of I extension. And there is a question regarding Valley Region Transit. If you wanted to cut just the increase requests that they had after submission, or you wanted to cut the total increase. I recorded that you wanted to cut the total increase, but I'm not sure that that was correct.
Okay, gentlemen, let's confirm that with her. So was it just the increase after they submitted theirs, or both, Rick?
I thought we said both.
Okay.
I thought it was the late increase that came in. That little over $1,000 is what I thought we were talking about.
Yeah, and I think if I'm recalling correctly, that my biggest concern was that they came in after the fact, and the increase after they had submitted was
Right.
for items that were for a different county and not ours. So I thought my vote was just for that additional that came in afterwards,
So I'll go ahead
the
and
1174.
I'll go ahead and change that then. That's not going to change much, but. And then we cut out $500,000 in contingency, and we added a $50,000 to your personnel contingency. So you'll now have $550 in there.
So, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Well, I kind of wanted to, since we're kind of in this area, just food for thought, and this is more for Jim and Rick than it is for me. But there was discussion that if the need to pursue this master facilities plan and fund some of these problem areas that we're looking at, the large expense areas, and you wanted to go out for a bond, that we would need some money set aside for to hire bond counsel. And the number that threw out was kind of thrown out to me. To me, it was, and I kept telling, no, you're heading in the wrong direction. But I was told 300,000. Is that about what bond counsel is going to run to try and run a bond? About 300. I'm seeing a head nod. And again, that's a way future discussion. So I don't know if you guys want to consider that, putting it in, or wait till the following year.
Well, if we don't put it in, does that put it off to fiscal year 20 then?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what I thought.
Do have, going back over here, I do have that line there for implementation, where you could put something there.
You know, Mr. Chairman, if we use the foregone, we could add that 300,000.
If we use the
In the general
foregone, we could add everything.
No, not everything, just a lot more than what we got. And while I'm talking about the foregone, Don't forget that we have a public hearing that we'd have to schedule for that. And, you know, if we put it in the budget now, and then the public hearing went south and there was this outcry of people screaming about it, we could always take it out.
Correct.
Well, I think you could schedule you could, just for safety's sake, you could schedule a public hearing for the foregone, just use of foregone. I don't know if you have to identify a dollar amount.
Yeah, you do.
Yes, you specifically have to identify a dollar amount and a use. I've seen it as low-key as just ongoing personnel and operating costs at one very small agency. I would not recommend that we do that. I would recommend that we have an idea of what.
Well, Mr. Moyle might get upset if we.
Come on, old buddy.
I don't know. Let's mull that over as we work through the rest of this afternoon. I'm thinking it as a safety valve. We might want to do it, but I don't know that I agree with it. I'm still not quite there.
I'm not there.
Let me think.
Okay, and then the other thing you did was we took out, not you specifically, but we took out the coroner's new site construction for next year for the 1.2.
Yeah.
So that decision was made. Also, going back to the supplementals, if you remember, we moved the housing first, that whole budget over to indigent services, that saving the general fund $200,000.
And again, I want to remind everybody that that is a year-by-year commitment.
And I think by using fund balance to support that, it says that loud and clear.
And that the county only committed to the first year.
That's what we need in all caps.
I'm assuming the contract says that. I don't know.
Okay?
Moving on to personnel requests. Again, these are just supplemental requests, and you looked at new positions only yesterday, but we took out the admin specialist, and I believe it might have been called something else, for the trial court administrator for a total of $57,000, almost $58,000. The clerk cut 2 positions for their court clerks, $50,000 each. We cut the police sergeant in the training unit, $139,472. And then operations, the painter for $50,000. And IT, the IT network specialist for $85,600. And the staff law clerk for the Commissioner's Department of Administration for $80,500.
Okay. I think I was looking at the B stuff.
Okay, you want to go back? I could try and fit it all on one page, but I think it's going to be really tiny.
Kathleen, have we looked at the OpEx?
Want to move over to OpEx and see if there's anything there?
The which one?
The operational expense, the extraordinary operational expenses, that's where the payroll system is. But again, these are the projects that your transformation board prioritized for you. A lot of these IT projects are security related. And then, of course, the sheriff's end-of-life radios and the
Yeah, I
file
don't think any
conversion.
of those we can, I mean, just my opinion, I don't think, those are pretty crucial. If we mess with radio replacement, that kicks us out further, and you gotta have your time and attendance. Those are the 2 big ticket items.
Well, we haven't had anything go wrong with the computer system lately, so.
It's a good thing we didn't start at 8 o'clock this morning, let's just say that.
But thanks to our IT department,
Exactly,
we had that taken
Yes.
care of within no time.
exactly.
Although Antonio looks a little older today.
Is that him?
Want to go back to the these supplementals?
Any thoughts or concerns there, gentlemen?
I think we addressed them yesterday.
Yeah, and short of Jim's thought on, it seems where we're hung up at is the issues with the foregone.
Well, Mr. Chairman, what about Allenbaugh House?
You need to make a decision on
Make a
Allenbaugh.
decision
It
on
is
that.
included in here,
Yeah.
but again, there is no decision recorded on that.
Well, I can discuss some concerns I have about Allenbaugh House. I mean, as far as the supplemental, well, I'll just view this. Since I became the liaison over to Allenbaugh House. Thank you. Yeah, Rick, I don't think I had a choice in that one. You know, I've experienced multiple times the meetings getting canceled, which concerns me. I've seen the meetings get canceled and then things pushed down the road. There's been times, I'll openly admit, that I haven't been able to go to a meeting because of conflicting schedules. So I personally have missed meetings, so I can't blame it all on them. But I'm a little bit concerned if you have a standing meeting on an organization that has this kind of money behind it, that why are the meetings being canceled so frequently? You know, I don't recall, and again, this could have been one of those times when I had a conflicting meeting, but I don't recall having the discussion about going to, or at least our board being made aware that they were going to go to the population-based, and maybe that was done before I got in there, population-based, and I think that's why the increase was based upon population increase. So they decided that the funding for that would be based on population. At some point, when that happened, I don't know. I'm not, personally, I'm not in favor of the increase. I can hold my nose, and maybe that's not a good description. I can reluctantly support the overall dollar amount that we're into it initially up to last year. But again, I want to reiterate that the county's percentage of people that use that are with Ada County is very minimal. I understand that if we were to pull out, and this is probably why I'm supporting it, I understand if we were to pull out of that it would put a pretty good sized burden on the people who are remaining there. And if that is that fair, I don't know. But my view, I would support it just based on that. So,
Mr. Chairman, could I, Judy, I have a question. Did Allenbaugh House, did they send the county like an annual report or anything?
Yes.
They did?
I think those are done at the liaison.
yeah, and that's what we're referring to by the percentages of people served. It's like Boise's 92% of their population is who attends Allenbaugh House.
And that's consistent with the year I was there also. Boise was so high.
Yeah. So that's where I'm at. Where are you guys at, Rick?
I'm still a no on increasing to Allenbaugh House.
Okay, no increase, but you okay with the funding of it? The big picture.
I think we talked about that, cutting that, have we?
No, I think that came up when we I think that's the answer you need. Two answers, really. We funding the what we continue to fund, and then are we going to go with the increases? Those the questions?
Basically, I just need to know about the increase, but
Okay.
if you're going to.
Increase.
Yeah, no on the increase.
On the increase for Rick?
And I'm gonna stick with yes on the increase, and I've got a lot of the same concerns that the chairman voiced, that if it is, you know, they base it on population so they get more money. No doubt in my mind, but it is a program that provides a lot of good to our constituents, even though 92% of them live in Boise City, they're ours too. So I know I'll be the lone yes vote on it, but.
Well, no, I'm a reluctant yes, but I do want to also say that this, and this is part of my reluctance, not only with the population and everything, but the overall concept of Allenbaugh House, having been given my history lesson by previous commissioners, I was under the understanding, and if I'm wrong, I'm sure somebody in the sheriff's department will correct me, or law enforcement. But the whole concept was twofold. Number one, it was to provide for the substance abuse folks, but it was also designed in the beginning to be a place for law enforcement to be able to take people who, for lack of a better word, were inebriated and just needed a place to sober up. They didn't need to go to jail, they just needed a place to land, and that's what they were going to do. And that was pitched to the county, and because of that one concept, being able to help out the police departments, that the county at that time said, yeah, this is a good use. And it was my understanding that 2 weeks after everything was agreed to and the funding was there and it started going in progress, is they canceled that, for lack of a better word, drunk tank. And they canceled that and just used it strictly for the substance abuse. So that's the history behind it. And I've always spoken up in the past about that, that, you know, I still think that our police agencies need that. That would certainly help out with our jail if they had that ability for those law enforcement folks in the field to drop them off and get those issues taken care of without having to book them into the jail. So again, that's just another reason why I'm somewhat against it.
And Mr. Chairman,
It was a bait and switch.
it's a shell game. There's also the mental health component. But you know, listening to your comments, and I reflect back, and I was on the Boise City Council when this was being conceived, and you're right, even with the city, I supported it as a council member because of the detox program, that it was going to provide an easier or more efficient program for law enforcement, and really it actually never happened. So are you going to vote no on this? Is that what you're talking about?
I'm voting no on the increase. I'm okay with the continuing to fund it.
I always enjoy admitting this. I've had a deathbed conversion. So I'm going to vote no on it too, the increase.
Okay. 3 no's on the increase.
All right. Where to?
Go to our front page. Give us some numbers again.
I'm not sure they changed a whole lot, but
Plug in negative 8,663 into additional expenses.
-8, what?
663.
Into which one?
Down at the very right corner.
It's just a catch place to make adjustments.
Just, Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
just
I
for
have to add back the
conversation's
1,000.
sake, Anthony, can you put in a $2 million foregone?
Kathleen can.
I can.
Kathleen?
I'm trying to get the zeros right, so. Ha,
49,000.
got it. I like that green. That's a good green.
Well, but that's not really accurate, because if you're going to use 2 million of foregone, then you got to plug in those other things. So it brings us right back down to where it was at.
Plug in what other things? If we're gonna use, we're talking about using 2 million of foregone for the courtroom?
Yeah. and
Oh, the
and
475.
Do
Okay,
you want me to answer that? You're going to kind of work that out yourself.
I'm with you. So what number do I need to change down here?
Just put 470.
470?
The courtroom's needed.
Yeah, still good with that.
But what about the courtroom?
Oh, it comes out?
courtrooms?
Right now it is accurate. Because the courtroom was in there already.
Right, now I'm just putting back in the fully,
The 1A, yeah, the 1A.
yes, the one, yes.
Yeah.
All of the courtrooms, the audio for all of the courtrooms?
So it isn't an offset. I thought under the current budget, the courtroom was not a go. But now.
It's in there.
It's
It's
a
in there.
go. It was just,
General fund.
you were saying though that that's what it would be used for, is the courtroom and the, so you have to take that, you have to plug that back in somehow.
It already is in, so it's already in your expense.
Show me,
Okay, so this 470 right down here,
yeah?
that is the additional for the audio video for the courtrooms,
In budget
because
B.
it is out.
Okay,
And if we go over here, the courtroom is in, right here. So it's already included. So that plus the 475. So all those expenses are in, and then we plugged in $2 million of fund balance, or of new construction. We're gone, whatever.
what did you just say?
Kathleen in 4-letter words. Do we need a break? Gotten into our special water back here that we have?
Can we have a time delay?
You are red.
I'm sure.
Here?
Oh, I know I
So,
am.
so do this for me. Do this for me. Take out that, take off completely the foregone. Okay, you're there.
Yeah,
Okay.
I didn't save it.
So, but as we have it right now,
Yes,
the courtroom is in there.
correct.
Okay, but the other isn't.
The AV, the additional AV is not.
Okay.
Yeah, what is it, just 6 courtrooms is one?
Originally, yeah, it's six
six
courtrooms. The
courtrooms.
252 is already in there.
Yeah.
To do all of them, it was an additional 475. That is not in there.
Right. But what I'm saying is Jim is saying we're going to use 2 million in foregone to do the courtroom and the AV.
All of the
Okay.
AV. So in order to do that, to make this tool work, I need to add back in that 470, yeah, you took my mic off, the 470 for those additionals. So 470 for the audio video that we took out,
Okay.
right? So I add that back in.
Okay.
Then I add in the use of foregone, 2 million. If I got enough zeros in that, I didn't.
One more.
See.
There it is again.
Not that.
I'll try to be quicker on the bleep.
I get it. I get where you're going now.
Okay, so now we're at 2.5.
So now what you're saying is we only need 2.5 of the balance, fund balance.
Right, which is an
Instead
excellent
of
number.
3.5.
Yes.
Did you want to use any other 4-letter words to describe how good that was?
I think I would be silent.
That's perfect.
It's a nice shade of green, that's all I can say.
So put a 0 there,
A zero where?
foregone.
Really?
And put a 0 down there in your additional expenses.
Okay. Unfortunately, I can do zeros, well, maybe not.
0 is a 4-letter word, so just say 0.
We never did take the 500 off the payroll time management, did we?
No. I think I can do that right here, though. Again, same type of concept.
There's green.
Yeah, but it's still 58,000 more than I want.
Oh, you're kidding me.
Hey.
Well, again, the discussion goes to the foregone. I know where Jim's at. I know where Rick's at. I know where I'm at, but
Just, Mr. Chairman, could we have, Kathleen, could you put the 2 million foregone back in there? See, now that looks good.
That looks good. That's a 4-letter word too. Good. That,
I wouldn't include
that
the AV
doesn't
upgrade.
include the AV though, yeah.
doesn't include the what?
The AV, the additional AV. I think that would be,
So you change the minus 500
So-
to minus 30,000?
So it'd be 970?
No, no, no.
a minus 30?
Minus 30.
30.
So it'd be 30,000 net there.
Okay.
That's a good shade of green.
I need a break.
Perfect.
Mr. Chairman, before we break, Sheriff, misdemeanor probation is fully funded for next year. And I know that Odyssey, or that new state law is going to change that. I'm assuming that we have, I don't remember you specifically mentioning misdemeanor probation, but I'm assuming that you put the full amount in the budget. And we don't know yet what's going to happen when that priority of payments change from 11 to 3.
Commissioner Tibbs, Chairman. We did put the full amount in. This last quarter has been good to us. Odyssey has been improving, and the trickle-down effect has been serving us well, and so we're hopeful that next year is going to be much better for us. We had anticipated maybe about a 300 to 400,000 shortfall. Right now, we believe that that will be around the 110, 130, and anticipate that next year will be again to the positive.
Mr. Chairman, just as follow-up, I didn't ask the question thinking about, well, we need to reduce that for this next year. I asked because I wanted to make sure that that full amount was in the budget, because we do have to go through that transition to priority 3, because you really don't have a lot of alternatives of what to do with that.
Things have been going well in that area. We've also been having great conversations with our judges and our fee structure and order of payments, and so we're quite hopeful.
Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner
Thank you.
Visser.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sheriff, is it an estimate on what money we will be getting from the court's new priority payout? Is that an estimate, or are you basing it on what the revenue that's coming in from the probationers? And somehow it's distinct from last year, right?
Right, Commissioner Visser, Mr. Chairman. That's based solely off of payments that are coming in. We don't get to dictate what somebody on probation is paying, depending on their job or their status. But what we're basing that off of is our current status and the current trends that we're seeing.
Okay. I'm just trying to figure out, we cannot estimate really what the court's priority payments will be to us until they start coming in then, is that right?
Well, we are number 4
Right,
on
I know it
that
moved up.
priority of payments, and so we can bank on that. And that has been pretty level.
We might be number 3, 3 or 4.
Number 3,
Well, 3 or 4 were better than 8.
right underneath of our victims, as we should be.
Okay. Good, thank you for that information. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Break time?
Well, before we go on break, I'm gonna put this question out and we can think about it and then come back from break. Well, me being Mr. Blunt, like I always am, I'll just put it out there. Yeah, trying to, should I do this or not? My thought is, it's going to be based on these things. Early in the discussion, Commissioner Visser, you stated that as long as we didn't get into foregone, you would support the 3% base. And then, well, the other part of that was a little later on with what we discussed at the beginning of the meeting was the comment that if we didn't reduce the nurses, then you would reconsider that. I'm comfortable with the entire nursing staff for the sheriff as has been presented. So that's pretty much where I stand on that. Now, if that's going to change your opinion on the 3%, then that's going to change a lot of the negotiations that we're going to do up here as a board, because I just don't know where you're at with that. If
That's going to take some more deliberation on my part and looking through these numbers that I have.
Okay.
And trying to, within the open meeting laws, get input from additional, maybe input if it's needed from the departments.
Well, there's no problems with open meetings laws when you're talking to department heads or other elected officials. It only comes when it comes to this board. When
So
there's
the
discussions.
discussion with the sheriff the other day was,
That was fine. It was just
Okay.
your email to me. Is what, because we're the decision maker here.
right, that's what I thought.
So, and I'll be quite frank with you. If you're thinking about withdrawing your 3%, then I'm thinking about going into foregone. So that's where things are at. So,
Right, well, the thing for sure is if we go into foregone, I will withdraw the 3%. The other one is not a certainty.
okay. So I think that decision really based upon what you want to do, knowing that I support, and I think Jim said that he supported it too, but knowing that I support the full program in the nursing.
Right.
That's the only question we have here that I can see. So the other part is, and when we get down to that, if that decision hasn't come to, if we haven't figured that out, I think it would be best to schedule a meeting just to be on the safe side. For the foregone, we can discuss it. We also have that ability to turn that down at that time. So those are all the things, to me, are the major things that we need to get over or get through in order to finalize a tentative budget, if that makes sense. So why don't we give those some thoughts? We'll come back here and I'll just come back in about 15 minutes and we'll get back on the record then. So let's come back about let's come back at 2:10 p.m. We'll be in recess till then. grab your seats and pull up or turn off your phones again. I know those happen to come on every now and then. Where's our detention supervisor? No, not here today? Not gonna play us any music? Okay. We back on with the internet? Good to go. All right. Again, back to do some deliberations. I think we're getting pretty close. If we could go back, I still want to go back at this point and take out the foregone and take out that 30 down below to back to whatever it was. So we were at about that 3.5.
Yeah, I think we had the 500,000 out for the roll system,
And that was the,
payroll.
yeah. And as I recall, Kathleen, you were pretty comfortable with it other than the extra 50,000 or so that was up there. But you would go with the 50,000, right, Kathleen? We're going to give you a word of the day, and you have to use that in a sentence.
Please don't. Please don't.
So this is kind of, I know we've got one item that appears to be kind of straggling, holding us up at this point, and that's the foregone. So I'm going to propose a thought to the board and see where everybody stands on it. We submit this budget. We schedule a hearing on foregone. Just because we have the hearing doesn't mean we're necessarily going to use it, but it does keep that option on the table as we continue through our deliberation and we get closer to the July 31st deadline of having a tentative budget. And it's my understanding that the issues that have been discussed regarding foregone deal with the courtroom, is that correct? Was that what I heard? And then the AV project, which is, again, the courtroom stuff. Those are pretty expensive projects that the courts need, obviously. And then once we have that hearing and then hear from the public on their input and their testimony, we could just thank the folks for their testimony at that hearing, and then as we get into the night of deliberating to solidify that tentative budget, then that's the time when we make the decision on that. So that would be my proposal. If I'd like to hear from my fellow commissioners. Rick?
Well, I looked through my notes, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when we first addressed the nurses for the sheriff, I believe Commissioner Tibbs suggested 4 nurses and 1 supervisor. Initially, that was your suggestion, based on my notes. And then Commissioner Case said 8, and you changed your mind. So that...
Yes, I did.
Okay. So what's your position on 4 nurses now?
8 nurses, 1 supervisor.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so that still leads me back to my question. Where are you at on the proposal that I just put out there?
With no foregone taxes showing at 3% of the base, I'm okay with that for right now.
Okay, and you okay with having the foregone hearing?
I'm okay with having a hearing, yes.
Okay, and then the hearing would constitute just those items that I'd stated, and that's the court and the AV project. So $2 million in foregone. Correct. Okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, so do we, if we're going to have a public hearing on $2 million roughly of foregone, does that have to be put into these numbers now? And then we have the public hearing, and if the decision is to not use it, then it's taken out. Because what we would be doing essentially is we'd be adding to it.
I think it's a funding mechanism.
Yeah.
So you'll make the decision whether, at that point too, I mean, we'll have it in the budget, and we'll have it supported right now with the use of fund balance, which is what we have. And then you'll have your hearing, and then you'll decide whether or not you want to take fund balance to support that or not. Foregone. Thank you.
So to answer Jim's question, no, I don't believe it goes into the budget right now.
Okay.
Because it's still an unknown whether we're gonna use it or not. Into these
Foregone,
numbers.
the revenue side of the budget, correct?
Correct.
That's what you don't want in there,
Okay.
yes. And Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, to do the courtroom and the additional courtrooms, it's actually $2,045,600 is what you would be using for foregone.
Shoot.
You can give us those exact numbers when we go to
45,000,
advertise what we need. But it's roughly $2 million.
Million, yeah.
Okay. Back over to you, Commissioner Tibbs. The proposal that I put forward.
Well, in the words of Kathleen,
Bleep.
I almost did, just because that's how I roll. Yeah, I'm fine with that. I'm optimistic that certainly a very strong case for the use of foregone for the courtroom and the courtroom upgrades will certainly, relying on the courts and probably a lot of other folks that use the courts to come in and testify, and so I'm good with it.
Well, and obviously I'm good with it because I'm the one that proposed it. So you have 3 that are good with where we're at right now. That puts us into, will your office be scheduling the hearing for the foregone?
Yes.
Okay, and then I would ask to Commissioner Tibbs's point that I don't know that it's necessarily the county commissioner's job to sell this because it's really the function of the courts and the public defender and the prosecutors who are utilizing this. So, folks, I think it's dependent upon you to put together a program or a presentation to be able to give to the public that night. I don't know who wants to take the lead on doing that, but I would encourage you all to get together and do that so that we have a presentation to the public on what the need is and, you know, from each of your areas, why you need that, why you have to have that. I don't know, the clerk's office might be involved. I don't know what your part of that might be other than, maybe not. Maybe it's just the 3.
Minor part.
But I would say that's what we need to do. If you're all thinking that that foregone needs to be spent on that, then you need to be heard from. So, anything else for today?
No, I am going to go back here onto the payroll system and change this to 17, what is it?
1750. There you go.
And, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Tibbs.
And are we done with how many nurses for the sheriff's department? Did we officially, I guess we did.
Said at 8, but according to the rules, it could be cut because we're at the tentative stage.
That's correct. Well, even up until we make the decision on the 31st, it could be. Your budget can go down, it just can't go up once we adopt a tentative budget. Am I correct on that?
That's correct.
Okay. We don't adopt a tentative budget until July 31st.
Correct.
But as far as budget discussions, I believe that brings it, or deliberations, I believe that brings it to a conclusion. Am I correct?
I believe so.
Okay. So again, we'll work with the clerk's office in getting a date established for the foregone hearing. And then obviously on the 31st, we'll have that final adoption of the tentative budget. So on behalf of the board, I'll let them speak for themselves, but I want to kind of chime in first. I know these get contentious and I know they get tough. Everybody has difficult decisions to make, and you all need, you put forward your requests because that's what you feel you need to properly run your agencies and your departments. I appreciate all the hard work you do. It's very difficult for you to do that, but it is extremely difficult for us to giving consideration to all the pressures that we have, not only to properly fund and run our departments and our agencies, but also to the demand that the public puts on us as commissioners to be considerate of their wants and needs too. So having said that, comments from the board?
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Tibbs.
Yes, I also want to thank everybody, especially Kathleen. You brought some new words into the budget process. So who knows what else she can say. And this, out of the 6 years, this is my 6th budget, and this year has been by far the best year for presentations. You all just did an excellent job, and I think the information that you provide to the board has been absolutely amazing. I know you put a lot of time into it, and it's appreciated. And you know, it's tough. You know, we get put into a position where, you know, we may disagree on what's approved or what's not approved, but you all do just an amazing job. So thank you very much, and look forward to seeing all of you at the public hearing for the use of foregone. Did I mention it was $2 million that we'll be discussing? So again, thank you very much.
Commissioner Visser.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. Indeed, thank you all for being here and getting a firsthand impression of how difficult our job is. As of 2 minutes ago, I have received 21 emails and Facebook comments following yesterday's discussion. So it is out and about in the public. So I was on Channel 7 last night, but that just adds to the input that we get. But I'm very proud to be one of your commissioners. I'm also proud to represent 470,000 people in a county that I've lived in for 41 years. Your departments are doing outstanding work, and thank you for your service to Ada County and to the citizens of our county. Thank you very much.
You know, I know we haven't done this in the past, but I think it would be a good thing to start doing, and that now at the conclusion of these budget things, to offer the podium to our other elected officials. If you'd like to come up, if you got any thoughts that you want to share or any of that, and don't feel pressured to do it, but if you'd like to, Bob, come on up.
You don't have Tourette's syndrome, do you?
I don't know what that is. Throughout this, and
I don't think so.
I don't want to interrupt them.
Okay, sorry, Bob.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, throughout this whole process, I was just really impressed with how it was being run. I've been through many budgets before, and the old days, it really wasn't transparent with what was going on. And a lot of time before we even got to the budget hearings, the budgets would already have been decided because of relationships that have been formed between the commissioners and other elected officials. This process, I think, is just really, it's just so well done and so transparent and so fair, because everyone gets to see what's going on. They understand the issues that the other elected officials are having, the other department heads are having, as well as the opportunity to make a case for their presentation in really, I think, an unbiased and an unprejudiced Board of County Commissioners and an environment. So thank you so much. I just really appreciate that.
Thank you, Bob. Appreciate the words.
Thank you very much, Bob.
Anybody else?
Bob gets a raise, in case anybody was.
Everyone else.
Hi, Jan.
Hi. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I too want to echo thanks and appreciation for the hard work that you do to keep the county running. I know you have difficult decisions to make, as do all the people who come before you and ask for things that we need in our departments and offices. But I appreciate the hard work. I appreciate the process, the procedure, the dedication that you have to getting it right every time. And I just want to thank all the other folks in the room who work hard behind the scenes to make sure that, you know, we can keep the county running with integrity, efficiency, and using tax dollars in an efficient way, and we all try to do that. And I'm really proud to work for the county and for the people who elect me, so thank you.
Thanks, Jan. Appreciate that. Anybody else? Sheriff, come on up.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, you know, I get the absolute privilege to be the 38th Sheriff of Ada County and represent our citizens. And I want to first of all say thank you to our staff that has put in an incredible amount of time putting this budget together so that we could present it to you in the best way possible. We didn't take that lightly. We truly brought you the best product that we could to represent the true needs of the citizens of Ada County and what we need to take care of them. And I think we did that for you this week and last week. I also would like to thank you for your thoughts and appreciation for what we've put into it and your dedication to us at the Sheriff's Office over the last few years. So thank you so much, and we'll see you on the other side.
Thanks. Appreciate it, Sheriff. Chris, come on up.
Oh, I guess, is there anybody else, or am I?
I think you're the last. I don't believe the coroner's.
Fellow with, what, 209 days left? I guess, the board and to those of you here, county budgeting is an interesting process. I do agree. I think we've improved over the years. I think the departments and how they present did an excellent job this year, and I certainly appreciate the challenges you as the board have to face. I guess when I look at the budgets, though, there's the terms urgent and important, and we deal so much with what is in front of us and what is urgent. And as we're going forward, there's still a master's facility plan sitting out there. And certainly within 209 days, I think there'll be a new board, and they're going to have to deal with that. But so when we talk about whether it's $50,000 or $500,000 or whatever, the sheriff needs a new jail. And that's a few $100 million. The coroner needs a new facility. We need additional space for this building. When will that come to fruition, come to a plan? I will not be quoting someone who had the apt words to describe it, but that is coming, and I guess we are at the tipping point right here with this, and so the next board is going to have to move on the master facilities plan, or probably face an injunction from the government somewhere along the way, or a lawsuit. So that's just, I guess, one of those things that, from my perspective, I wish we had, over time, the resources and the planning put in place years ago so that we're just not going to be up against a wall. But anyhow, some of us won't have to deal with that, others will.
200, I thought it was 209 days yesterday.
Can't get any closer, any quicker. But anyhow, it's been very good, and I certainly appreciate Kathleen, Tim, Anthony, and everybody's efforts in my operation. They've done a great job, and I appreciate Phil's and everyone's help. So,
yeah.
Anyhow, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate the words. Final comment. This is my 7th. I was here for a partial budget hearing on my first go-around, so my 7th and last budget. I can tell you it's been extreme. I'm extremely proud of Ada County. All of the good people we have here, all the good hard work that you do. I want to thank you all for that.
Closing?
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I certainly want to thank Chairman Case for the way he has shown leadership in the 2 budgets that I've gone through. He has been honest, forthright. His bias is not shown. He served our employees and he served our taxpayers. And I want to thank you for your excellent service and the example you set for me. And then the big announcement is tonight is the Boise Hawks home opener. And unfortunately, Chairman Case can't make it, and I believe Chairman Tibbs can't make it either.
Mm-hmm. Chairman Tibbs.
Yeah, neither can Chairman Tibbs. Chairman-to-be Tibbs, I guess. Acting chairman, sorry. We'll get that right. Anyway, Jim Tibbs, Dave Case, can't make it, may have some extra tickets. I have 3 extra tickets. I will be going tonight, and the thing on Facebook is if you're a Facebook friend of mine before today and you come tonight, and I throw a strike on that first pitch, I will buy you a beer. So come on up and take advantage of these tickets.
I've seen him pitch. Commissioner Tibbs.
Closing. And we are kind of running over, so I'm going to make this quick. I'm really going to miss you.
Thanks. Okay, folks, I think as a budget, we are recessed. Okay.
Till tomorrow morning.
No, tomorrow is off. We don't have any more budget, and our next meeting will be when we have the
Public hearing?
public hearing on the foregone. And then about a week following that will be the tentative. So, thank you all again. We're done.